rebel, when they disobey, when they want to do their own thing. That's going on today. And Moshe is warning it in latter days. This is going to happen. There will be a time when Yehovah winks no more. Now, understanding Yehovah's times and seasons is like a husband gaining insight into his wife so he can fully love her, care for her, and protect her. See, Yehovah does all these things for us. He loves us. He wants us to love Him by obeying His commands, His Torah, His instructions. He cares for us. He protects us. He protects us. Think about it. He protects us. He loves us. And we're to love Him back. And look how we all fall short of the glory. That's why we need to come back to the Father and cry to Him and ask Him, I love you, Father. Please forgive me. Help me. Help me. Right myself. This is exactly what Yehovah desires for us in our relationship with Him. He desires for us to draw closer to Him and learn to walk in His ways. Not man's ways, His ways. It is time when Yehovah wants to assemble His people together for a special meeting with Him. It is time where we all to come together and look for Yehovah's lesser light. The new moon is such a beautiful marker for a beginning of the months. Now, the Creator's calendar, like I've been talking, that's just a warm-up to what I'm reading here. The Creator's calendar. And Elohim said, let lights come to be the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be the signs for appointed times and for days and years. Bereshith, Genesis 1:14, as I stated earlier. As you can see, it's for appointed times and seasons and signs and years, days. How do we know when our day begins at sunset? How do we know when our month begins? The crescent new moon. Our sign for our appointed times. A light. Let lights come from the expanse. Now, Deuteronomy 16:1 says, observe the month of Abib and keep Passover. Keep the Passover. Guard. Remember I said guard. Shamar. It's Shamar. Observe. Search out the new moon of Abib and perform the Pesach to Yehovah your Elohim from the new moon. For in the new moon of Abib, Yehovah your Elohim brought you out of the Mitzrayim by night. Deuteronomy 16:1. See, you cannot have a moon when there's no moon visible. You cannot have a sighting of the new moon if there's no moon to see. Okay, where's the new moon? I don't know. I don't see it. So how do I know, without my guide, when the new month is? How do I know? And I will show you later. I've talked to a gentleman, Rabbi Hillel Weiss. I didn't talk to him. I talked to another one, Rabbi Noonan. But there's an article last year, and I'll get today for you near the end of this teaching, where he admits last year they missed Passover by 2 days. By 2 days. Publicly admits it in the Breaking News Israel paper, in the report. He admits it. They publicly admit it. But I'll go on further what he states after that as well. But just know, they know what to go by the new moon. The assembly is in a state of submission and confusion, and resulting in a division for basically 2 reasons. For there shall be a time when they shall not bear sound teaching, but according to their own desires. They shall heap up for themselves teachers, tickling their ears. See if it tickles your ears, if it sounds good. This is in 2 Timothy 4:3, by the way. If it sounds good. If it sounds good. There's charismatic speakers all over the world. Make things sound good. Doesn't mean they're right. Especially when it comes to the Torah. Because it sounds good? Well, what's the Torah say? See, there'll be a time when they won't bear sound teaching. And that's going on. Number 2, blindly following myths and traditions. Tradition, oh tradition. You hear that, right? Fiddler on the Roof, tradition. They have engaged in many of the same arguments that divided the many sects of the Jews. The Pharisees and Sadducees, as well as many other sects, also could not agree on what the Scriptures said. This was because their perception were founded on already corrupted concepts concerning time, and the calendar created by man as a result of leaning unto his own understanding, Proverbs 3:5, because it says don't lean on your own understanding. And we've all done that. We're all guilty of it, one time or another. Thus rejecting the Creator's revelation. And again, like I said, gentlemen up over in Israel, both say, well, because of our traditions. See, they openly admit it. Now, and they shall indeed turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to myths. 2 Timothy 4:4. See, whatever comes up in this world, whatever issue comes up in this world, the Torah has the answer for it. We have to search it out, we have to research stuff, but the Torah has all the answers. Now, Philo was a Jewish historian who wrote in the 1st century and was a contemporary of Josephus. At the time of the new moon, the sun begins to illuminate the moon with a light which is visible to the outward senses, and then she displays her own beauty to the beholders. This is in the works of Philo, Special Laws 2, 141, page 581. Hendrickson, 1997. See, they know. They know when the new moon is. Now, Moedim. What's a Moedim? Appointed time. In a Moed, we meet Yehovah at a specific time, specific place, and a specific purpose. Specific purpose. Can we spend time with Yehovah whenever we desire, rather than on just these specific appointments? Yes, we're to spend time with Yehovah every single day. Every single day. We can spend it with someone at any point in time. However, an appointment is at a specific time, at a specific place, and for a specific purpose. Our appointed meetings with Yehovah should reflect this as well. See, we spend time with Yehovah every day. We need to do that. But there are specific times that we're to gather on the appointed times, His appointments. We need to realize that these Moedim appointed times were set in the earth prior to the creation of any living being. Yehovah had already created a timetable for His children to meet with Him. Yehovah does not make mistakes, nor does He change His mind. Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, the appointed times of Yehovah, which you are to proclaim as set apart gatherings. My appointed times are these, like I said in Leviticus 23:2. Shabbat, Pesach, Shavuot, Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. Are there consequences for missing the appointed times? Yes, there is. There's blessings and curses, correct? We obey, there's blessings. We disobey, there's a curse. There's going to be a chastisement if we disobey. My people have perished for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being priest for me. Since you have forgotten the Torah of your Elohim, I also forget your children. Hosea 4:6. So that we perish because of lack of knowledge. What did I say? Go in prayer to the Father. Pray to God, have the Father guide you in study. Research. We need to know this word. Knowledge is power. The more we know, the closer we get to the Father. The more we know the truth, we get closer to the Father. But because you've rejected it and don't want to do it, I reject you from being priest. And He also forgets the future generations of the children. Your children. You also find this in Job 36:12, Isaiah 5:13. The Torah and the testimony, Yeshua, is a foundation of all spiritual knowledge. We are confronted with two options when determining truth. We can rely on the mind of man in an attempt to figure things out, or we can divinely reveal truths as recorded in the Torah. Which do you want to do? Trust in man? Because the word says don't trust in man. Or divinely reveal the truth as recorded in the Torah. If we rely on the mind of man, we are feeding from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Here's what it says in the Torah. In Jeremiah 17:5-6. Thus said Yehovah, cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his arm, and whose heart turns away from Yehovah. For he shall be like a shrub in the desert, and not see when good comes, and shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, a salt land that is not inhabited. Oh, the great salt lakes in Utah, right? No one's inhabiting there, right? But do you see? Cursed is the man who trusts in man and makes flesh his arm. Jeremiah 17:5-6. Now, there is a blessing. Blessed is the man who trusts in Yehovah and whose trust is Yehovah. Jeremiah 17:7. See, if we can divinely reveal the truth as recorded in the Torah, we base our faith and actions on the Torah we are feeding from, the tree of life. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, not some of your heart, with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Know him in all your ways, not some of your ways, in all your ways. And he makes all your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. If we put our trust in man, what happens? We're going to get off the path. And when we get off the path, we're going to be lost. But if we stay on that path, it shoots right directly to the Father. See what I'm saying? We've got to stay on the path. It's better to take refuge in Yehovah than to trust in man. Psalms 118:8. Your righteousness is righteousness forever, and your Torah is truth. Psalms 119:142. Now, the Jews at the time of Yeshua did not as yet possess any fixed calendar, but on the basis of purely empirical observation, on each occasion, they began a new month with the appearing of the new moon, the crescent moon. History of Jewish people in the time of Christ. First Division, Volume 2, page 366, by Emil Schur Hendrickson, 2009. Now, the new moon in the First Temple period. After King David's death, Solomon sent a note to King Hiram to inform him that he was going to build a temple for Yehovah. Notice in 2 Chronicles 2:4 that Solomon mentions the new moons as being an intrinsic part of Yahweh's worship system. See, the new moons, okay? See, I am building a house for the name of Yehovah, my Elohim, to set it apart to him, to burn before him sweet incense, and for the continual showbread, and for the ascending of offerings mornings and evenings, on the Sabbath, and on the new moons, and on appointed times of Yehovah, our Elohim. This is for Israel forever. For how long? Forever. Devarim, bet. 2 Chronicles, Deborah Ha Yamim, bet. 2 Chronicles 2:4. You can see this in 1 Chronicles 23:1-31, 2 Chronicles 8:12-13, 31 3-7, and Nehemiah 10:33. There can be no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that the biblical holidays are dependent on the moon. The strongest proof of this passage is in Psalms 104:19, which declares, he created the moon for Moedim, appointed times. He created for what? Appointed times. He created the moon for Moedim, appointed times. The Hebrew term Moedim, appointed times, is the same word used to describe the biblical holidays. Leviticus 23, which contains a catalog of biblical holidays, opens with the statement, these are the Moedim, appointed times of Yehovah, holy convocations which you shall proclaim in their appointed times. Again, Moedim. So when the psalmist tells us that Yehovah created the moon for Moedim, the appointed times, he means that the moon was created to determine the time of the Moedim of Yehovah. That is, the biblical holidays. The above verse clearly teaches us that the holidays are related to the moon. But when the Torah was given, Psalms 104 had not been written by the Levitical prophets. And the question still remains of how the ancient Israelites could have known this. The answer is that the Hebrew word for month, Hodesh, itself indicates a connection to the moon. We can see this connection in a number of instances in which Hodesh, the month, is used interchangeably with the word Yira, the common biblical Hebrew word for moon, which by extension also means month. For example, in the month of Yira, a bull, which is the 8th month, Hodesh, 1 Kings 6:38. In the month of Yira of Ethanim, which is the 7th month, Hodesh, 1 Kings 8:2. And I'll see this in Genesis 29:14, Numbers 11:20-21, Deuteronomy 21:13, 2 Kings 15:13. Hodesh, meaning new or make new, renew. This is primary, meaning is preserved in a number of passages, such as 1 Samuel 25, which Jonathan says to David, tomorrow is the new moon, Hodesh. Clearly, in this verse, Hodesh is used to refer to the specific day on which the month begins and not the entire month. Another passage which uses Hodesh in its primary sense is Ezekiel 46:1, which talks about the day, Yom is day, of the new moon, Ha-Hodesh. Clearly, in this verse, Hodesh, new moon, is a specific event, and the beginning of the month is the day on which this event, the new moon, occurs. Now, why is it important for the Israelites to know when the new moon occurred and when the month began? Think about it. Why? Why? Why any of us should know? Originally, the new moon was not fixed by astronomical calculations. If you do research, and I mean research, like I talked to you earlier about doing research and study and do research, you'll know that historically that Israel did look for the new moon as a crescent. The Sanhedrin assembled in a courtyard in Jerusalem named Bet Ya'azek. They would send men out to all the high places in Jerusalem. The men would light large fires to alert the others looking for the moon that was seen. The crescent new moon. To inform the population of the beginning of the month, beacons were kindled on the Mount of Olives and then over the entire land and in parts of the diaspora. Those Jews who lived great distances from Jerusalem always celebrated the 30th day of the month as the new moon. Now, I do want to make a note. Nowhere in Scripture is it required that we need the authority of the Sanhedrin to say when the new moon is acclimated in the sky. However, Scripture clearly tells us in Deuteronomy 16:1 what we're to do concerning the crescent new moon. We observe it, we look, we go out and look for it. Observe in Hebrew is shamar, and also means look nearly for search. So it's our responsibility to go out and look for the new moon, the sighting of the new moon. Like I said in Deuteronomy 16:1, observe the month. Okay? Now, and it shall be that from one new moon to new moon, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all such will come before me, worship before me. Like it says, and like I've stated a couple of times before in Yeshayahu, Isaiah 6:23. Now, they're getting ready, at this time, they're getting ready to go into the month of Tishri. And what you will hear a lot of teachers teaching is, this is Rosh Hashanah. This is the new year. You know, you got Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur coming up. Well, the first Tishri, well, they're saying it's Rosh Hashanah. No, it's not. I can clearly show you it's not, because that's the 7th month. Here's what the word says. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, this new moon is the beginning of the new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. Exodus, Shemoth. Exodus 12, 1 and 2. Not the first of Tishri is Rosh Hashanah, the new year. No, it's not. The word clearly states it's not. The word clearly states in Exodus 12, 1, 2. When Yahweh was talking to Aaron, and to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, the beginning of the new year. In Shemoth. The above passage clearly shows this is when the new year begins. Rosh Hashanah, and not first Tishri, which is the 7th new moon. See, when it says the beginning, just like when the world was created, in the beginning. See, all this was established already for us. And you, like I said, you can see in Exodus 12:2, the beginning of the new moons for you, for the first new moon of the year for you. So that's Rosh Hashanah. The dates of the annual biblical festivals that Yahweh gave to Israel and instructed them to observe were determined based on when the new moon occurred. Leviticus 23, 5, 6, chapter 24, chapter 27, chapter 34. Okay? I'm giving several scriptures, not just one. In the first new moon, on the 14th day of the new moon, between the evenings is the Pesach, Passover, to Yahweh. And on the 15th day of this new moon is the festival of Matzah to Yahweh. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. Leviticus 23, 5, 6. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th new moon, on the first day of the new moon, you have a rest, a remembrance of Torah. Leviticus 23, 24. So that's the 7th month. When we do Passover and you get that first new moon, that's the first month. That's the first new year. And see how you count 14 days. And so on. Especially when we're going first to Tishri, the first new moon. Then you count 10 days. Yom Kippur. How do we know when to count? We have to cite the new moon. We have to have our guide, our indicator. And Elohim said, let lights come to be the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be signs for appointed times and for days and years. Again, Genesis 1:14 that I'm reading. Again, to show you, let lights. He made the moon for appointed times. The sun knows it's going down in Psalms 104:19. There can be no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that the appointed times are dependent on the moon. And even in the book of Enoch, Enoch was a descendant of Adam, of the 7th generation of patriarchs by way of Seth. The book of Enoch was written 300 years before Yeshua. The first day of the new moon, according to the book of Enoch, is the day the light rises on the moon. Enoch 78, chapter 78, verse 12. And on the first day she is called the new moon, for on that day the light rises upon her. Now, in ancient times, the watchers in Israel watched for the crescent new moon to establish the beginning of each month. Once seen, they reported their sighting to the calendar court authorities of the Sanhedrin. Now, like I said earlier, you don't need I understand them going there and letting them know and lighting the Torah. I understand that. But nowhere in the Torah is it required that you do that. Because see, when I read to you about this gentleman, Rabbi Hillel Weiss, he'll tell you they need to he'll admit it is the crescent moon. He admits they missed the Passover by 2 years and 27. But I'm sorry, they missed the Passover by 2 days in 2017, and he admits it's the crescent moon. His thing is though we need Sanhedrin to get back corrected, and you don't. And I'll read some of that article to you. Now, Rosh Chodesh or Rosh Chodesh beginning of the month, head of the month, is the name of the first day of every month, marked by the birth of the new moon that begins the month. The new moon played a significant role in the cultural and religious life in ancient Israel, so that time could be counted by the cycles of the moon. Exodus 19:1. It was a festival day observed by burnt offerings and sacrifices, as well as banquets. Numbers 29:6. 1 Samuel 25:5. 1 Chronicles 23:31. The new moon festival was often listed along with Sabbath as an important religious observance in 2 Kings 4:23, Ezekiel 45:17. Like Sabbath, any other rituals. But not only that, it also came to symbolize empty and self-centered religion when not accompanied by faithfulness to Yahweh in other areas. Isaiah 1:14 and Amos 8:5. Now in Isaiah 1:14 it says, "My being hates your new moons and your appointed times. They are a trouble to me. I am weary of bearing them." In Isaiah 1:14. Now I did have this Rabbi in Jerusalem tell me, I asked him to explain that to me. Well, he's saying that he hated the way, what it's talking about is the way they celebrated the new moon, is what he's saying. But it's pretty directly, he's not saying by being, I hate your new moons the way you're celebrating it. He's not saying, it's not saying in that scripture. It's saying by my being hate your new moons and your appointed times, they are a trouble to me. I am weary of bearing them. And Amos 5:21 says, I have despised your festivals, and I am pleased with your assemblies. And like I said before, when I read about Jeroboam, the king of Israel, he did the same thing. He blatantly did his own new thing in 1 Kings 12:32-33 because of his fear. Of the 10 tribes. The vision of Yeshayahu, son of Amos, which he saw concerning Yehuda and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziyahu, Jotham, Ahaz, Hizkiyahu, sovereigns of Yehuda. Alas, sinning nation, a people loaded with crookedness, a seed of evildoers, sons acting corruptly. They have forsaken Yehovah. They have provoked the set-apart one of Israel. They went backwards. Isaiah 1:1-4. What are we doing today? We're going backwards. The nations are going backwards. Israel is going backwards. Like the further you go away from the truth, like George Orwell said, the further you go back from the truth, see, you allow all this evilness to come in. Like Plato said, those who speak of the truth, you're hated because you speak of the truth. The land was laid waste because Yahweh's people allowed pagan outsiders to destroy and take over the land and bring in the filth of their idolatry, whoring, drunkenness, and murderous ways. Had Yahweh not interceded, the land would have become like Sodom and Gomorrah. See, he intercedes for us at times as well. Okay? Just like when Aaron, they want to do their own festival. And Moshe is interceding. Intercessory prayer. Interceding for them. Please don't consume them, please. And he didn't. He intercedes for us. Now, a man-made calendar. Man creates his own thing. Not of the Father, his own thing. His own man-made calendar. The about face from watching for the first visible crescent to calculating conjunctions to determine the month's beginning came with Hillel II's calendar. Revision in the 4th century CE. The sages had established a permanent calendar, and the public proclamation of the new moon was discontinued. So now we go from sighting the new moon to not sighting the new moon. We're going to discontinue it. In 352 AD, the Jews revolted against the Roman Emperor Gallus and his commander, Ursinus, and lost. After this, the Romans limited the power of the Nazi, president of the Sanhedrin, head of the Sanhedrin, and forced him to give up the authority to proclaim the new moon and the fixing of the festivals. Hillel too agreed with this to save his neck and sold out Yehovah's Torah. A calculated calendar was instituted and published with its rules in 358 AD. Encyclopedia Judaica, Hillel too forced them to do it. Hillel too agreed to it to save his neck and sold out. I understand fear. I understand that. I get that. But I also know, who do we answer to? The Father or the man? He sold out to save his own neck? Okay. I understand the Romans coming in. But you fight to the death then for this word. The disciples did. Yeshua's disciples fought for this to their death. They didn't answer, man. It's not that they were perfect. They weren't perfect. They made mistakes. We made mistakes. But let me tell you something. They fought to their death for this. Hillel the Nasi held the office of Nasi of the ancient Jewish Sanhedrin in 320 and 385 CE. This was during Constantine's reign. Like I said, a Nasi is a prince in the biblical Hebrew, is prince of the Sanhedrin in Mishnaic Hebrew, or president in modern Hebrew. Now, during the Talmudic period, under the reign of Constantinos, 337 to 361, the persecutions of the Jews reached such a height that all religious exercises, including the computation of the calendar, were forbidden under pain of severe punishment. I understand that, severe punishment. How many of us wouldn't break? I understand that. But let me tell you something about the new moon. I prayed on the Temple Mount. Okay? You can be arrested for praying on or detained on the Temple Mount. A couple of weeks ago, it was on the news, on the Tamar Yonah show over in Israel, that a young lady was detained on the Temple Mount, taken to the police station for praying on the Temple Mount. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. You can pray on the Temple Mount. You don't have to make it so obvious. You know, they bow and bow. I prayed, I said the Shema on the Temple Mount. They didn't know I was doing that. I was praying to the Father on the Temple Mount. I do all that. Same thing with the new moon. I can't go out for a nice walk and just look up. Wow, beautiful sky. There's ways of doing it, okay? Observing it, okay? I know they were getting persecuted. I understand all that. There's ways of doing things and following the Father's will. His will is for us to be with Him, okay? Now, in the post-Talmudic period, the persecutions under Constantinus finally decided the Patriarch, Hillel II, 330 to 365, to publish rules for the computation of the calendar. Now we're making up our own